Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm Kirsty and this is Stuck in the Mud. As always, if you're finding my content helpful, please remember to like the videos and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I just wanted to come on here today and talk about why I've not been uploading as many videos. I've not been as present on here at the moment. I did mention briefly about the fact I was going through something with our family cat. I did put something on the community page. Our cat had surgery recently, quite major surgery in her abdominal region, and it's just been very intense. I've been looking after her, I've been syringe feeding her, and it's been difficult. Unfortunately, she did pass away at the weekend just gone, and to say we've all been devastated is an understatement. She was only 7 years old. She was just such a sweet cat. Like I said, we've only had her for 7 years. She's a ragdoll. She's such a pretty cat, and we really do miss her so much. And I found it really difficult. I found everything so overwhelming just this last few weeks because we found ourselves in a situation where she needed surgery like ASAP. We had to try and get pre-authorization from the insurance company, and it has been tough because there's just so much going on. And then of course I did mention briefly, I think, to certain people that, my dad's been unwell as well. He's been in and out of hospital, so I had all this going on at once, and yeah, things have felt a little bit stressful recently, and like I said, this really took us by surprise, with our cat. She wasn't doing well at all after the operation. We had really high hopes that she'd pull through, and unfortunately it wasn't meant to be. But she did pass away with us all around us at home. And I wanted to use this example because I have definitely felt, given how overwhelmed I felt recently, I definitely felt a pull inside of me to the intrusive thoughts that we'll get as someone who has a OCD, who has suffered greatly with it in the past. But even people without OCD, I think when something happens quite major like this in their life, where it's a stressful life event, we can get so caught up in our thoughts and pulled in easily to certain concepts, and especially with grief, guilt can come alongside that. And that is something, as an OCD sufferer for 40 years, I've dealt with a lot. We often, as OCD experiencers, we do suffer that extreme level of guilt over the thoughts we're thinking, over, if we're capable of doing such thing. We hold ourselves in such high regard to how we conduct ourselves. If we could have done things better, is something being misconstrued, the way where we're behaving, that we often think to those extreme levels of guilt, whereas someone without that may experience it for a short time. And I think that's a natural part of grieving. But this last week, I have definitely felt that pull into it, those intrusive thoughts, like, well, what could I have done differently? Maybe she would have survived, our cat, if we had done this or that. But it was getting me nowhere fast. I can feel that pull, but I've been so conscious of the fact that I'm doing that. I know that that's not a good place to go. And I really had to make that choice, either to follow that thought or not. And as an OCD sufferer, I know it sometimes feels like it's not a choice. We feel like we're being held to ransom. In fact, I thought this is probably a good analogy for it. We often feel like, we have to figure this out. If I'd done this, then I don't have to feel all this guilt. We have to come to some kind of certainty or conclusion. Whereas someone else would maybe think about that for a short level of time, and then it would just fade away on its own. But as an OCD experiencer, we often need. We feel that need, and we feel like we are held to ransom in a way. We know we've got to figure it out. We've got to get that ultimate piece of information that kind of lets us off the hook, and then we can feel at peace. But the thing is, with OCD, it doesn't let up. It just keeps going round and round, and we never come to that, that golden nugget of information that we want, that will help relieve our discomfort, because that's what we're feeling. We're feeling all this discomfort, and we just desperately want escape from it. And that's where I've been this last week. I felt myself thinking, oh, what if I'd done this? What if I'd done this differently with our cat? And unfortunately, I don't think it would have changed the outcome. But that, like I said, that pull to try and figure everything out was there. And now I'm at the other side of my OCD recovery journey. I can definitely pick up on when that is happening a lot more easily. And this is why I say to you guys, letting those thoughts be there is going to feel uncomfortable. And like I said, you might think, well, I don't know I'm doing it. But when we can build upon our awareness to the fact of our thoughts and the way we respond to these kind of intrusive thoughts, and when we're more, we are aware of the kind of behavior that we're exhibiting with this, we're trying to solve everything, we're trying to figure out, and we're trying to come to that level of conclusion over our thoughts. We're trying to give ourselves relief with compulsions, whether that is rumination, worry, overthinking, or we're carrying out some kind of physical compulsion, to feel that release of guilt that I'm feeling, and it doesn't work. OCD is just, it's not going to give up. It's just going to keep pulling you back in, and the cycle goes round and round. And I've honestly, this last week, I've caught myself in that loop very quickly. And I think that's why I am where I am now in my healing journey, because I can pick up on it quite easily. So I don't go round and round for days, weeks, months on end as I used to, because it used to carry on and on and on and on. It just never gave up. So now I can often quickly recognize my behaviors. I'm searching for that certainty. I'm trying to relieve myself of the discomfort, and I can disengage. I can let those questions go unanswered, and it's not going to feel good when we do that. When we have all those questions like, well, what if I'd done this? What if I'd tried this instead? Maybe I could have done this better. But we do what we do think's right in that moment. We can't, with anxiety, we're living in the future, we're going into the past with our OCD, trying to resolve something that we dealt with in that moment in time. And we did the best we could with what we knew in that moment. But that's not good enough for OCD. OCD is just going to keep, question. Well, what if you tried this? Then, the cat could have lived, but this is not helpful. It's going to keep me stuck. I'm not going to move forward with my life. I'm just going to perpetually stay stuck in that mindset of, well, I could have done better, and just feeling so down and beating up myself for the fact that my cat didn't live. And I couldn't have given my cat more love, especially in this last few weeks when she's really been struggling. But I wanted to use this example of why we do have a choice to follow that thought. Although it doesn't feel like it at times, I get that. I could have gone down the rabbit hole with these thoughts and ended up in a worse place than I am already, because I'm suffering now. I'm grieving for my cat. We loved her so much as a family, and it's difficult. It's when you have that emotional connection with animals. I really don't understand how people don't have emotional connections with animals, because I always have, and those, they're part of your family, and this is why I've found it so difficult, and everyone that loses a pet, you know, does, because they are part of your life, and they take up part of your heart. So I've really struggled, and I'm missing her so much, and I've definitely felt more down than usual, and this is why, like I said, I've not been uploading. I've had a lot going on, as I said, with my dad as well. My dad is 91, you know, I'm caring for him, so there's a lot going on with him, but he's stable, he's fine, just so you're aware, you know. But I've had all this with our cat, so I just wanted to keep you up to speed with where I'm at and what's been going on in my life, because, you know, although, like I said, I'm on the other side of that recovery with my OCD, and you can be too, it is difficult, and I don't want it to sound uncaring to the fact that, you know, I'll say, you know, it is a choice to follow those thoughts, because I know it's difficult. I know that pull, and some of my children suffer with obsessive compulsive disorder, you know, intrusive thoughts, and I explain this to them where, you know, those questions that come, you know, if we can just let them hang out, let them be there, be as passive as possible with it, you know, these can be related to real life events. We have to accept they're there with non-judgment, you know. It's going to be difficult, but the more consistently we practice this, the easier it is to disengage with them, and they will fade on their own. Because those last couple of days I've been so much better. You know, grief is a part of life, you know, and experiencing those kind of feelings alongside it is normal. But when it goes beyond that, and we get so obsessed over it, and we worry and overthink over it, and it just goes round and round. We're not going to come to a level of certainty over it. You know, we're never going to get there. And that is why OCD is so powerful, you know, and why it feels just too big to conquer at times, because we just can't see a way out of feeling like this. But it does come with some discomfort on the healing side of things. You know, we have to feel through that discomfort and let it be there, that feeling, those sensations in the body. You know, I definitely felt it this week when I thought, no, you know, I'm pulling myself into this. I'm trying to answer questions that I know really the answer to. The answer is I did everything I could, and with what I knew at that time. But OCD is a powerful beast. It will try, you know, it will try its best to think, well, what about this? You know, what if you'd done this? And, you know, you're a terrible person because, you know, you could have done this differently, and this could be a different outcome. You know, it really will just try and grip you any way it can and get you chasing its tail. But if we can just let those thoughts be there, you know, we're aware it's there, we're going to let them go unanswered, as difficult as that feels, as uncomfortable as it feels, and move forward with our life. And that is how we get better. And it sounds so easy, because I remember I've been there when I've been in the pits of despair with my OCD, and people have said to me, you know, you need to leave it alone. And my first response is, how can I leave it alone? You know, how can you just say that to me? You know, how can I just let those thoughts be there? I get that, because I've been there, you know, on that side of things but really ultimately I had to make that choice. I had to say, you know, no more. You know, this is controlling my life. I'm not living my life fully. You know, everything is just controlled by this disorder. You know, the way I live my life, you know, the compulsions I carry out. You know, I'm not living freely the way I should be. But it's not an easy and quick road. You know, we have to accept that. You know, we have to accept that this is going to take a lot of practice. We have developed coping mechanisms over many years. Sometimes, in my case, it was where, you know, I'm doing all these safety-seeking behaviours which are not helping me. They're not going to be helpful in the long run. They're just keeping you stuck. But there is a way out of this, and I really hope my videos prove this to you guys, that, you know, this doesn't have to be a life sentence. This is something that we can change. We can fix this. You know, I've learned a lot about the way our brains work, the way our brains will adapt to certain things. And it's funny enough, my husband actually said something the other day, which is a little bit different, but it's true the way our brain adapts to things. You know, I found myself recently, and I don't know if anyone else has done this, but it's kind of crazy, but I'll mention it. We use iPads, we use phones in the modern world. I found myself recently trying to read, because obviously my 46-year-old eyes, you know, my sight is probably getting worse. I probably do need an eye test. Trying to read some medication, and the print was so small. I found myself trying to open all the writing up larger using my fingers like I would on a tablet or some other mobile device. And we were saying, you know, how crazy is it that our minds have adapted to the way we, you know, the way we use these devices. You know, our brain is like, yeah, you need to make that bigger with your fingers. Like, I can't do that, physically can't do that. It's an object, a separate object. But how, you know, mad is it that our brain has changed, you know, and that is the same as we can do for the way we respond to our thoughts, the way we are feeling those urge to carry out a compulsion, you know, the images that arise in our heads. We can change the way our brain reacts to them. And changing my reaction to my thoughts and being a lot more aware that they're there, you know, I don't have to judge them. You know, anything can come in and out. Any thought is allowed. This was always what my therapist said to me, and it was really one of the major things that helped me get better. Any thought is allowed to be there, but we have to have as little involvement with it as possible. If anything warrants our attention, we will deal with it. But those obsessive thoughts, the intrusive thoughts that are just keeping us stuck, and, you know, then we're not getting to any conclusion with it because they're just there to keep you stuck and keep you in that cycle of doubt and uncertainty. So I hope these examples in today's video has helped you realize that, you know, we can overcome this. This doesn't have to be your life story. OCD doesn't have to be how your life plays out. You know, we don't have to be stuck where you are now. We can get through this. Maybe my videos are helping you see that we don't have to engage so heavily with our thoughts, the images, the urges. You know, we can let them be there. As uncomfortable as it is, that discomfort will get lessened with time. Those thoughts, those intrusive thoughts, images will decrease with time. You know, the more consistently we practice detached mindfulness, you know, we let the thoughts be there, that will get easier too. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.